Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a truly great pleasure to welcome you as we officially name Lowell E. Baier Hall and the Jerome Hall Law Library. In naming this building, we honour Lowell E. Baier, who is, of course, a distinguished alumnus of the Maurer School of Law, a very successful attorney and businessman, an extremely influential conservationist, a pioneering author, and a long-time partner and benefactor of Indiana University. In naming the Law Library, we honour Mr. Baier's favourite professor from his law school days, the late distinguished Professor Jerome Hall, a world-renowned expert in criminal law, comparative law, and jurisprudence. As I look out over the audience, I'm delighted to see that there are so many friends here today of Indiana University and of the Maurer School of Law. I'm especially pleased to welcome 4 members of our Board of Trustees of Indiana University, and I ask them to stand as I introduce them, and could you please all hold your applause until all 4 are standing. With us today are Randall L. Tobias of Carmel, Chair of the Trustees, Mary Ellen K. Bishop of Carmel, Vice Chair of the Trustees, Philip N. Eskew Jr. of North Webster, and Michael J. Miro of Fort Wayne. Please join me in welcoming our trustees. And also with us today are several members of the Baier family, and I wonder if they could just all stand for our recognition too, please, all members of the Baier family who are here today. Well, Nathaniel Hawthorne, one of the great American writers of the 19th century, once wrote that generosity is the flower of justice. When Hawthorne wrote those words in 1850, the law department at Indiana University was just in its infancy. Today, Hawthorne's words are especially fitting as we celebrate the remarkable generosity of Lowell Baier, who has throughout his distinguished career been a tireless advocate for justice, and who is, of course, an eminent alumnus of the school, whose faculty, students, and graduates have, for more than 175 years, worked to advance justice, knowledge, and the public good in the nation and around the world. As we gather to officially name the home of the Maurer School of Law, Lowell E. Baier Hall, and to express our deepest thanks to Lowell, we celebrate the spirit of generous and faithful support that has helped to make the American system of higher education the best in the world. The same spirit has, of course, also left an indelible mark on Indiana University. Names like Simon, Lilly, Kelly, Jacobs, DeVault, Showalter, and Maurer are forever woven into the philanthropic fabric of this great university. With Lowell's generous gift to the Maurer School of Law, a gift that will be used to enhance the school's facilities and to provide for their long-term renovation and expansion, and with the naming of this building in his honour, the Baier name joins these distinguished names. Today, we also celebrate the legacy of Jerome Hall, a member of the Indiana Law faculty from 1939 to 1970, by naming the Law Library in his honour. The Law Library, as many of you know, truly is one of the nation's premier legal research libraries. It has been consistently ranked by the National Jurist, a student-orientated law magazine, on the strength of its collections, the excellence of its service, the professionalism of its librarians and staff, and the availability of the latest technological tools. And in naming our outstanding law library in Professor Hall's honour, we commemorate the legacy of an influential scholar and an outstanding teacher. Professor Hall had a profound impact on the lives of countless graduates of the school, including Lowell Baier, who served for 2 years as one of Professor Hall's research assistants. The Maurer School of Law is testament to the fact that the schools and colleges that make up this great university are at the heart of its intellectual life. The school's reputation as on a national and international level continues to grow. The tremendous strength of the school's faculty and programs provides the educational foundation upon which the success of its alumni depends. That alumni network has grown from an inaugural graduating class of just 5 students to nearly 10,000 graduates living and working around the world. The Maurer School has become synonymous with excellence at Indiana University and throughout the world because of the remarkable generosity of alumni like Lowell Baier, Mickey Maurer, and our friends at the Lilly Endowment. Because also of the work of the school's outstanding faculty and because of the tradition of exceptional leadership. This tradition of excellent leadership, of course, includes that of former Dean Lauren Rebell, who now serves as provost of the Bloomington campus. A longtime friend and colleague of Lowell's, Lauren led the school for nearly a decade with enormous energy, focus, drive, and vision. I know that all of you join me in expressing our deepest condolences to Lauren on the sudden and tragic passing of her husband, Steve. Even as we celebrate tonight's joyous occasion, our thoughts are all with Lauren. Dean Austen Parrish now continues and builds on this tradition of outstanding leadership in the school. And I also want to once again thank Professor Hannah Buxbaum for her excellent service as interim dean of the school. Thanks to these leaders and to their predecessors, names like Taliaferro, Lofton, O'Bannon, Hamilton, and Bye are among the countless stories of leadership and success that are part of the school's long-standing traditions of excellence. Of course, among these stories of achievement is Lowell Baier. Lowell is a native Hoosier from Jasper County, and he also spent much of his childhood in Montana at his grandfather's homestead. He earned a bachelor's degree in economics and political science from Valparaiso University, and then came to Indiana University to earn his law degree. His distinguished and varied career serves as a model for subsequent generations of Maurer School of Law students. After graduation from IU, he practiced law in Washington, D.C., formed a successful real estate development company, and became a leading advocate for the conservation of our natural resources and of wildlife. He co-founded the Wild Sheep Foundation, which has worked to re-establish the habitat of wild sheep in North America and has served as a model for such activities worldwide. He also served as president of the Boone and Crockett Club, the nation's oldest and most influential conservation group founded by Teddy Roosevelt. He revitalized the club and led its efforts to create doctoral programs in natural resources and wildlife conservation management at 5 different universities. He took the lead in drafting President George H.W. Bush's wildlife conservation agenda and has served as an advisor on environmental and conservation issues to all successive presidential administrations. He is a recipient of the law school's Distinguished Service Award, and last year he was inducted into the school's Academy of Law Alumni Fellows, the highest honor the law school can bestow on its graduates. He has also long been deeply committed to serving Indiana University and the Maurer School of Law, not only as a benefactor, but also by serving as one of the school's greatest ambassadors. His distinguished career and his generous support for the Maurer School of Law are testament to his belief that there is great value in an excellent legal education that gives students the skills that they need to succeed and instills in them the values and principles that will guide them in their careers and in the rest of their lives. So Lowell, on behalf of Indiana University, I would like to express how deeply grateful we all are to you. Your generosity will touch the lives of countless students, faculty, and staff. It will allow the building to continue to support the needs of the Maurer School of Law for many years to come, and it will help Indiana University continue to thrive as it enters its 3rd century of service to the state and to the nation and to the world. And for that, the entire Indiana University community is deeply grateful to you. And now, it's very crowded up here. And now I'm very pleased to welcome 2 distinguished speakers to the podium on this milestone occasion. First, Indiana University Executive Vice President and Acting Provost John S. Applegate, who is the Walter W. Foskett Professor of Law, will speak on behalf of the campus. And Executive Vice President Applegate will be followed by the Dean of the Maurer School of Law and James H. Rudy Professor of Law, Austen L. Parrish. Each will speak without further introduction, so please join me in welcoming Executive Vice President Applegate.
making it even more crowded up here. Thank you, President McRobbie. And thanks to all of you for joining us on this momentous day for the Maurer School of Law and the entire Bloomington campus. As you might imagine, it feels very good to be back in this familiar building, and it feels especially good today as we celebrate its brand new names, Baier Hall and the Jerome Hall Law Library. It is also a privilege to be the one to speak for the Bloomington campus today. But of course, as the President mentioned, the occasion for my speaking is one that weighs heavily on all of us. Provost Rebel has enormous admiration and affection for Lowell Baier, and only the most grievous circumstances could keep her away today. I know that on this day of celebration, we are also holding both her and Steve in our hearts. This is truly a day of celebration, however. We come together today at a prominent corner of the campus. Baier Hall stands alongside Bryan Hall, the Sample Gates, and Franklin Hall to form a gateway that not only invites people onto our campus, but also acts as a physical embodiment of the deep connections between our campus and the Bloomington community. Baier Hall also stands on the edge of Dunn Woods, and thanks to inspired design, Dunn Woods, in effect, serves as the eastern wall of the Jerome Hall Law Library. The woods are perhaps the most outstanding of the many areas of our campus that preserve the natural beauty that is a hallmark of the Bloomington region. It is fitting, then, that this building should be named after a man whose life has been dedicated to community service and the preservation of our nation's natural beauty. Lowell Baier is rightly considered one of America's leading conservationists. In fact, he has been named Conservationist of the Year on multiple occasions and by multiple organizations, including by the readers of Outdoor Life magazine. He is a certified forest steward, a leading member of the Boone and Crockett Club, as you heard, a founding member of the Wild Sheep Foundation, and a lifelong supporter of the Boy Scouts of America, having attained the rank of Eagle Scouts, which, if you don't know scouting, is a very big deal. His notable accomplishments as a conservationist include heading efforts to reclaim land that had once been part of Theodore Roosevelt's Elkhorn Ranch and to reincorporate that land into the Theodore Roosevelt National Park. President Roosevelt's great-grandson, Theodore Roosevelt IV, wrote a letter in support of awarding Mr. Baier an honorary degree from IU. In that letter, Mr. Roosevelt wrote about Mr. Baier's exceptional role in guiding the Boone and Crockett Club, which was founded by President Roosevelt in 1887. He wrote that the club had been taken over by a group of people who thought the object of hunting was primarily to collect trophies and had little sense of our responsibility to the future generations who will inherit the natural landscapes that we ourselves have inherited. Mr. Baier renewed the spirit of conservation that had been instilled by President Theodore Roosevelt, and he guided inspired efforts to rehabilitate and preserve natural habitats for wildlife around the country. This accomplishment is only a small part of Mr. Baier's efforts as a conservationist, but it speaks volumes about what it means to be a conservationist. As you know in this room, I'm a chemicals and nukes environmental law guy. But one of the best things about being a member of the Maurer Law School faculty is that I have wonderful birds and bunnies colleagues. And they've taught me a few things. I've learned, for example, that a good conservationist has two distinguishing features. First, a talent for identifying that which is worth preserving, whether it is a natural landscape under threat or an approach to the environment that has stood the test of time. And second, a profound sense of responsibility to future generations, to our children and grandchildren, and their children and grandchildren. These features also define a great university. As we approach our bicentennial, We at IU Bloomington find ourselves in a time of great change, with new schools being formed, new buildings being erected, and new degrees and academic programs being shaped to meet the needs of IU's third century. We even have a bicentennial strategic plan that puts it all in writing. I just thought I'd mention that. I know my audience. Worse, my audience knows me. Yet, amidst all this change, we find that our responsibilities as conservationists are more pressing than ever. It is our duty to preserve the ideals and aspirations upon which Indiana University was founded. These are ideals worth passing on to future generations of students. They are ideals exemplified by the outstanding mentoring of the late Jerome Hall, ideals which he in turn passed on to today's honored guest, and which he is in turn making it possible to pass on to future generations of law students. For the future law students who will study here, Baier Hall and the Jerome Hall Law Library will serve as constant reminders of the remarkable power of conservation to link our past with our future through generosity motivated by a deep sense of responsibility and stewardship. Thank you, Lowell.
Well, thank you so much. This is a weekend of celebration for us. Not only do we have this terrific event, but tomorrow we get to celebrate the accomplishments of all our students as they graduate. And as I was thinking about our students, I was just struck about how incredibly talented they are and how much they've achieved in the last few years of law school. Creative, entrepreneurial students who are going to do great things and have done great things. I think that's why I'm particularly proud that we're going to be naming the law school Baier Hall, or the building Baier Hall, because Lowell embodies so much of the best things that we hope in our very top students and the very best of what they do. An entrepreneurial spirit, a willingness to hard work and dig in and earn rather than just have things handed to them on a silver platter, and a great commitment to public service. I was just reading that last night our students, graduating students, had donated more than 16,000 hours of public pro bono service during their time in law school. And that just seems to capture so much of what Lowell is about. And so I know as I come in the future, I'm going to feel particularly proud each morning to walk into the Maurer School of Law in Baier Hall, and that means a lot to us. I also, Lowell, wanted to thank you for all the faculty. It's so important these days to have generosity for our alumni who believe in the future of the school and are willing to make an environment fit for the very best students who come from all over the world. And your tremendous gift is going to secure our future so much more. So, Lowell, for everybody from the faculty and for the students, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your dedication to the law school. We appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Executive Vice President Applegate and Dean Parrish. We will now hear from three members of the Maurer School community, representatives of the library, the faculty, and of the student body. Linda Farris is the director of the library and a senior lecturer in law. Robert Fishman is the Richard S. Melvin Professor of Law, and Zachary Shapiro is in his final year of the Doctor of Jurisprudence program and is the president of the Maurer Student Bar Association. Again, each will speak without further introduction. So please welcome to the podium Ms. Farris.
As director of the Law Library, I'm very pleased for the opportunity to thank Lowell Baier for this wonderful gift to the law school, and especially for the naming of the Law Library as part of this gift. Throughout his highly successful career, Lowell has always been an intellectual at heart. He's testified before Congress, drafted legislation, and written books and articles, especially in pursuit of his great passion, Western conservation. Lowell understands that a great law school requires a great research library, and that the research library is at the heart of the law school. By naming this library, he's recognizing the importance of the library in the life of the school. And to have our law library named for Jerome Hall, a distinguished scholar and a man who was so influential in Lowell's life, makes the honor even greater. Jerome Hall arrived at the law school in 1939 and was a member of the faculty here for 31 years until his retirement in 1970. Unfortunately, I never had the pleasure to meet him in person, but I've heard stories about him and read about him all of my career here at Indiana University. President Hall, or Professor Hall, was definitely a larger-than-life figure. He was a beloved teacher and a prolific scholar, known worldwide for his scholarship in criminal law and jurisprudence. He was also a pioneer in the interdisciplinary analysis of legal issues, an area where Maurer continues to excel today. His achievements are too numerous to list, but suffice it to say that at the time of his retirement from Indiana University, he was one of the most honored professors on campus and held its highest rank distinguished professor of law. Although he retired from IU in 1970, Dr. Hall's career was far from over. He then joined the faculty at the University of California, Hastings Law School, where he continued to teach and research as part of the Distinguished 65 Club, a group of eminent scholars who joined the Hastings faculty after retirement. He continued his work at Hastings for another 20 years. I can think of no more appropriate name for our law library. Jerome Hall may no longer be with us, but because of the generosity of Lowell Baier, generations of law students will know about him and understand his importance to our history. We at the Jerome Hall Law Library are proud to be the caretakers of this legacy, and we thank Lowell Baier for making this possible. Thank you.
Well, it is a great pleasure for me to express my gratitude to Lowell Baier for his extraordinary gift to the law school. But I will say it is an even greater honor to anticipate walking into the building named for Lowell Baier every day as I continue my work at Indiana University. He embodies the highest aspirations we faculty have for our students, that no matter what kind of professional work they do, they will live a life of service, that they'll deploy those skills we hone in law school on behalf of the causes that inspire them. Now, one of the penalties of batting cleanup, as it were here, is that the previous speakers have stolen some of my thunder. I was going to talk about Lowell's relentless energy. After I heard President McRobbie speak, I was going to say, well, you know, to call him an influential conservationist, it doesn't begin to scratch the surface. But then, of course, my friend and colleague John Applegate listed many of Lowell's accomplishments. I want to say, though, that with respect to his work at the Boone and Crockett Club, that his energy and really his creation of innovative partnerships with environmental groups and with universities, institutions that you might have thought were always part of the Boone and Crockett orbit, really quite innovative and quite effective and quite well known. Clearly, though, the crowning achievement of his term and his involvement in the Boone and Crockett Club is securing the preservation of Theodore Roosevelt's Elkhorn Ranch and then transferring it to the federal government. I will say that that gift profoundly enriched the Theodore Roosevelt National Park in North Dakota, and the terminology that the National Park Service uses is that having the ranch provides the integrity needed for that national park, and I just think that's a particularly apt term to describe the fruits of Lowell's efforts. Now, I'm very fortunate to make a profession out of Lowell's passion. I study conservation law. Within conservation circles, Lowell has earned an enormous reputation for diligence, forthrightness, and success. He does not give up. As you've heard, he is the embodiment of Hoosier values, and he credits much of his success to his education at Indiana University. what a perfect turning of the circle, giving back to current and future students in this way. On a personal note, I will tell you that Lowell Baier is a gentleman of the first order. When I traveled to Washington last fall to testify against some endangered species legislation that I suspect Lowell supported, his advice was candid and effective. It was a rare treasure to encounter such a gracious advocate in Lowell Baier. Now, the last time we honored Lowell in this room, he quoted from Theodore Roosevelt, one of his heroes. Though Lowell's tribute was to Jerome Hall, these words of our former president and conservation giant, I think, well describe Lowell Baier's approach to life. Roosevelt credits the doer over the commentator and wrote, "Far better it is to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy nor suffer much because they live in a gray twilight that knows not victory nor defeat." What luck for me that my building now carries the legacy of a great conservationist. What fortune for IU to have a dedicated alumnus committed to self-examination and giving back. On behalf of the faculty, Lowell, I thank you.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here today representing the student body here at Maurer. As a graduating 3L, I spent the last 3 years of my life in this building, learning how to think critically and analyze problems in a way that I would have never been able to before. So much so that my parents have learned the hard way that you should never try and debate a law student. It isn't clear to everybody at first, but remarkable things happen in this building. This building has changed my and countless others' lives forever, and will always hold a special place in our memories of law school. It comes as no surprise that we honor such an extraordinary place with the name of one of our most distinguished alumni, Mr. Lowell E. Baier. With today's incredible competitive legal environment, the educational experience students must receive continues to evolve. Through the generosity of Mr. Baier and the amazing faculty and staff we have here at Maurer, students will have the opportunity to continue their rigorous education in an honorable field. On December 5th, 1842, IU's first law professor, David MacDonald, gave his first lecture to the class of the new law department. MacDonald told of the importance of law and the responsibilities of those who administer it. If you glow with honorable emulation and you desire to be distinguished among your fellow citizens, the law is a field worthy of your labor, a field in which you may, at once, gratify a laudable ambition and promote the best interests of society. Maurer has provided us an opportunity to satisfy our desire to be the greatest men and women in our field, allowing us to serve society in the best possible way. It is with great pleasure to know that, from now on, those challenges and ambitions will be pursued through Baier Hall. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much to all of our speakers. So now we come to a key moment, the key moment of the ceremony, the naming of these all-important and historic facilities. Could I ask everybody to please stand? Friends and colleagues, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the trustees of Indiana University, it is an honor to officially name Lowell E. Baier Hall and the Jerome Hall Law Library. I commend these facilities to the continued pursuit of excellence in intellectual and in professional endeavors. May all who come here to teach, to learn, to work, and to serve bring still greater contributions to the advancement of knowledge and to the spirit of achievement that defines Indiana University. So please join me in celebrating the naming of Lowell E. Baier Hall and the Jerome Hall Law Library with a round of applause. Thank you, and please be seated. And as I noted before, we really are delighted and privileged to be joined by Mr. Baier today, and I wonder if I could ask him to join me at the podium for just a moment. And I wonder if Dean Parrish could also return to the podium as well. Mr. Baier, on behalf of the Maurer School of Law and Indiana University, Dean Parrish and I would like to present you with a gift. So, Dean Parrish, could you do the honours, please? Oh, my. That's lovely. Thank you. This photograph of Baier Hall was taken by Daniel Judden, a staff member of the Maurer School, and we hope, Mr. Baier, that you will accept it from us as a token of our gratitude for your most generous gift. Now, in addition, Mr. Baier and Dean Parrish, I'd like to present each of you with a symbolic key in commemoration of today's celebration. And I believe, yes. This is your key. Thank you. We've been doing a lot of these recently. I think the key manufacturer has been working overtime. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is now a great pleasure to hear from our friend and colleague Lowell E. Baier. Please join me in welcoming him.
Well, thank you all and good morning. I want to thank the previous speakers for their very kind and generous remarks, all of you. And to you, young man, congratulations and welcome to the professional world. The Honorable Randall Tobias, Chairman of the Indiana University Board of Trustees, President McRobbie, Acting Provost Applegate, Dean Parrish, Professors Fishman and Ferris, distinguished guests and friends of the law school. I'm humbled to be here today, I really am, and to share this with so many of my friends. My family members have already been introduced. My wife Bonnie, my sister Bonnie, and her husband Ken, my brother Alan and Ruth Ann. There are some other folks, however, that I specifically want to introduce before I get into my prepared remarks. And they're from Remington, Indiana. And that's where I came from. Remington, Indiana, as the president mentioned earlier. So if they would stand, please. First of all, my sister Bonnie and my brother Alan from Remington. Ambassador Randall Tobias from Remington. His brother Roger could not be here today. Judge Fisher, where are you? Somewhere? Tom Fisher, Judge Fisher right here. Steve Hageman from Remington also. All expatriates at this point. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there was Roger. It was 7. Have I missed anybody from Remington? Okay. Oh. Right. I'm sorry.
This is my son, Tom Fisher.
Oh, Tom, great, wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you all for coming. I just wanted IU to know that Remington, almost 1% of the population of Remington is here today. Thank you. Let me move this where I can. Our family, as you have now known, was raised on a farm in Remington, Indiana. And that's a little town in Jasper County, halfway between Chicago and Indianapolis. Having been raised on that farm, I've remained a farmer at heart. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot John Tomke. I'm sorry. He's not from Remington, but my dear friend John, I'm sorry, just stand up. John Tomke from Indianapolis. John is a dear friend in the wildlife conservation arena. He and I see each other all the time on Capitol Hill and in Washington, and he is Mr. Ducks Unlimited. Seriously, international president, and he's currently, I think, president of Ducks Unlimited Mexico, right? Thank you all for coming. But at any rate, I was raised on that farm in Remington, and you may be raised on a farm and get strongly connected to the land and nature, but the farm never leaves the boy. And chapter 3 of Ecclesiastes reminds us that for everything there's a season, an appointed time, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to sow and a time to reap. And today is planting season all across the Midwest, and especially here at the law school. A time for us to collectively plant a seed, another cornerstone to support the future of this great institution. Now, what is exactly the seed that I hope is planted today and that leads to a bountiful harvest? And I have 3 answers to that question, 3 points that I want to share with you all. But first, a disclaimer. Let me be very clear about this. My gift to IU is not atonement or repentance for being a lawyer or real estate developer for the last 50 years. All right, I've said it. But first, my gift is an energizer, a spark plug, and a cornerstone to initiate and give reality to the beginning of Indiana University's $2.5 billion capital campaign to celebrate the university's 200th anniversary in 2020. It's a leadership gift to the law school to inspire other alumni to follow, and a response to President McRobbie's bold campaign motto, quote, fulfilling the promise. Second, my hope is that this gift will establish a sense of place and purpose in this building. This building never had an official cornerstone ceremony when construction began in 1954. So in a real way, my gift becomes an invisible cornerstone, supporting the future of this building, for which it is specifically earmarked, just as the Lilly Endowment Gift did in 2007 to underwrite a dynamic faculty, and Mickey Maurer's gift did in 2008 to underwrite scholarships for students. Having spent part of the last 50 years in commercial real estate development, building office buildings and shopping centers, I'm a bricks and mortar guy. I'm heavily into architectural design and interior space planning. I've been called a placemaker, and in my building career, I've come to realize, quote, a sense of place instills a sense of purpose. Let me repeat that. A sense of place instills a sense of purpose. That's what good architecture and design, handsome interior finishes, inspiring yet functional space to enrich one's mental attitude, and a well-maintained physical plant can do. Instill in our students a sense of purpose for why they are here and what's expected of them, whether in their ensuing careers. The IU Law School is the oldest law school west of the Alleghenies, the 9th oldest law school in the nation, begun in 1842. It's now 173 years old. Ground for this building was broken in 1954, and the library addition was added in 1986. This building is very appropriately built in the Gothic style of architecture, with its mock tower out front, crenellated parapet, thick limestone walls, and stylized leaded glass windows. The Gothic period ran from the 13th to the mid-15th century, from 1200 to 1450, and the chief hallmark of the Gothic period was its architecture, the great cathedrals and fortified castles and towns of Europe and England. This Gothic style is very appropriate for the law school because it was in the Gothic period that England started requiring formal training for its lawyers, its barristers and solicitors. Edward I in 1292, about 100 years into the Gothic period, required that each barrister receive a formal legal education, which began in the Inns of Court in London. When the library wing was added to this building in 1986, the Gothic tradition was richly followed and is a magnificent example of great architectural vision and interior space planning. The law library looks out over the old original IU campus and Dunn Woods, a magnificent forest. The architect designed an atrium with an immense skylight all across the top. And on one side of the building, stylized leaded glass windows that soar airily, uninterrupted, on each floor from floor to ceiling for the entire 5 stories. Reminiscent of the soaring stained glass windows in a beautiful Gothic cathedral, like in England or in Europe, capturing light and the heavenly world beyond, intentionally designed by the builders for these cathedrals to connect the worshiper with God. Scripture reminds us that light, eternal light, was God's first creation, which was not lost on the Gothic builders and architects. Now, curiously, the astronomy department's observatory and telescope are tucked into the woods just outside of the library, like a stage prop. Looking past the astronomer's observatory and into the woods and the natural world beyond presents to the viewer a garden of knowledge connecting scholarship and legal education inside the library to communion with the natural world, the celestial world beyond, and the wisdom of the ages. Letting intellectual light or enlightenment pour into the contemplative mind, a wonderfully rich environment to brighten both mind and soul in moments of reflection and contemplation during study. The law library's inspiring design is but one example of how good architecture and thoughtful interior design and finishes can inspire scholarship and education and motivate and inspire students and faculty in their studies and interpersonal dialectic and Socratic exchanges. A tool that's critical in a law student's education in shaping a logical, analytical mind as they debate the very essence of an idea or a legal theory and sharpen it like an arrow. As Proverbs says, quote, "As iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another." Referring to other named buildings on this campus during a naming ceremony similar to this in 2009, President McRobbie said, quote, "These buildings transform this university and touches the lives of students, faculty, visitors, and staff. These structures are built for 1,000 years, and in that time will touch thousands upon thousands of lives, serving as physical reminders of the vibrant intellectual and cultural life of this university," close quote. Truly, our president understands that a sense of place instills a sense of purpose. President McRobbie wrote me a note of appreciation last month and said, quote, "Your gift will enable boundless opportunities for students to flourish in these shared spaces, where they will undoubtedly build transformative relationships with peers and mentors alike, as you did with Dr. Jerome Hall. My endowment legacy, I hope, will inspire that sense of purpose in our students and faculty here in this building. If my first 2 reasons for making a gift to the law school were to fulfill the promise of the bicentennial campaign and to endow the physical plant, the building, to ensure the continual enlightenment of our students, my third hope is far deeper and less transparent than the first 2 reasons and more sublime. My third hope is that this gift, by example, will stimulate in our students an inner moral compass, pointing them towards a commitment to public service. It is a commitment of stewardship and self-sacrifice for this generation and those future yet unborn generations now in the womb of time. That takes many forms, from professional careers to unpaid volunteer service. Scholarship here at IU means little if it is not in the service of humanity, grounded in the virtue of humility. Our achievement-based culture, what David Brooks calls the resume virtue of the, quote, big me, embodies a corrosion of character which rewards self-promotion over service to society and crowds out introspection and circumspection. Public service, grounded in humility, is a transformative lens that can be instilled by our faculty here at the law school and related interdisciplinary and international programs. That's why our faculty's teaching and mentorship are so powerful and important. Books feed the mind, but the mentor feeds both the mind and soul. And my mentor, Dr. Jerome Hall, did that for me by both instruction and example. His lessons became my geography of hope, my North Star in guiding me for the last 50 years. Last year, a national survey of 30,000 college graduates was conducted by the Gallup Group for Governor Mitch Daniels, now president of Purdue University. Governor Daniels was interviewed by the Wall Street Journal just 2 weeks ago. And the survey revealed that the three things college students ranked highest during their education, college education, which contributed materially to their careers and their navigation through adult life, were the following. 1, having professors who made you excited about learning. 2, feeling as though your teachers cared about you. And 3, working with a mentor. Our young law students thirst for inspiration, guidance, and hope. This is their last chance right here, and our last chance and opportunity to provide that guidance and inspiration at the Maurer School of Law. We alumni have a voice in their nurturing by ensuring that the best faculty is in place to receive and shepherd them through their studies, that they have adequate scholarships to alleviate crippling student debt, and that their surroundings, the physical plant, is both inspiring and functional. These young law students are not just tomorrow's practicing attorneys. They are our future judges, governors, and elected legislators at both the state and the national level. They will govern the fabric of society that our children and grandchildren and their children will live in. We as alumni have both a social and a moral obligation to our country to ensure that these law students are well educated in our democratic principles and ideals, to preserve, protect, and defend what Thomas Jefferson called this noble experiment in democracy. The two most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you discovered why you were born. That second day can happen right here if our students have good mentors in their faculty, guiding their intellectual enlightenment. Their future careers are what they'll get paid for, but their calling is what they're made for. And that calling, that second most important day of their lives, when they figure out why they were born, can happen right here if we stewards of their future do our jobs today and provide the right atmosphere and incubator for their minds. Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes described it, quote, as touching their hearts with fire. In President McRobbie's April letter that I referenced earlier, he observed, quote, or he said, quote, our students' legal careers are rooted in public service. And the benefit of the daily insight students gain from their faculty and one another will surely catalyze successful future careers. Close quote. President McRobbie, you get it, and I salute you for that. That's my third hope for this endowment, that it will create an atmosphere, a space, to nourish students to recognize and embrace their providential role as public servants, grounded with a strong moral, ethical, and social conscience that will forever distinguish between societal and temporal secular needs as they protect our constitutional safeguards and democratic ideals. Now, how will this third reason for this future nourishment of our law students to embrace a strong social conscience be realized? 2 words: by example. And this is where Dr. Hall comes in. Dr. Hall was that transformative lens for me that I had the rare privilege of working for as his research assistant for 2 years. He taught me more about how to think logically and express in our native language clear, concise concepts and issues more than any other teacher. Dr. Hall was a genius. As Linda said, educated and cultivated in jurisprudence, philosophy, psychology, and ethics. He held 2 doctorates in law and philosophy from Columbia and Harvard following his undergraduate and law school days at the University of Chicago. His life was dedicated to original thought in the science and jurisprudence of psychology and criminal law. He authored 11 books, 109 law review articles and book chapters, and 45 book reviews. Truly, his life was a journey of the mind and spirit, because for him, the law was that interdisciplinary study of people and the human interface, both here and abroad. Not only was he a distinguished professor, author, and interdisciplinary thinker, he took that approach to the law and society on the road throughout his career, lecturing all over the world. After India won independence from the British, Dr. Hall later helped them revise their criminal code of justice, and he did the same in South Korea following the Korean War. Dr. Hall, by example, demonstrated to his students throughout his life a commitment and dedication to public service. Hall was truly an intellectual giant that, as Theodore Roosevelt would say, quelled the storms of the day, rode the thunder of a rapidly changing world, and stood with men on other planets. Theodore Roosevelt. Some years after Dr. Hall's bronze portrait bust was dedicated out here in the library in 2005, I began a dialogue with our then law school dean, Lauren Robel, now provost, about how to take memorializing Dr. Hall's inspiration to the next level. To perpetuate it as an inspiration for our students in defining their lives. Lauren suggested an endowment for the law library, which she beautifully described as, quote, the soul of the law school. It is therefore appropriate that the library be forever memorialized for the school's most distinguished professor in its 173-year history, and forever hereafter be known as the Jerome Hall Law Library, thus completing Dr. Hall's apotheosis. Today, this neo-Gothic building is being named Baier Hall. I struggled for months deciding whether to accept the university's generous offer to acknowledge this endorsement so publicly. In the end, the ability to be forever associated with Dr. Jerome Hall, my mentor, was too great to resist, just as it was my hope to ensure that a sense of place within these walls instills a sense of purpose in our students to become dedicated public servants, either in their careers or as volunteers. As I look back over my 50-year career, I've come to recognize there are 2 types of people: givers and takers, leaders and followers. Winston Churchill, near the end of his life, said, quote, "You make a living by what you get, but you make a life by what you give." I would hope that our students become leaders and givers, enlightened in this building by its world-class faculty and their physical surroundings, for it is here where the intellectual foundations of our country's future and preserving its constitutional democracy are laid. IU gave me a treasure over 50 years ago in the time and talent of its faculty. And this day, through God's grace, I am privileged to be able to say thank you. In a small way, by returning some of my treasure, my life's work, my harvest. President McRobbie, I am truly honored to accept the university's invitation to name this building Baier Hall, in the hope that this endowment will benefit the students, faculty, and law school for generations to come. Thank you all for sharing this day with me. God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. I forgot one thing when I was making introductions, and I've been up here for 15 or 20 minutes, terribly embarrassed to not introduce my class members from 1964. Bob Cassing is right over here. Bob, hold your hand up. Who else is here from 64? Is Sid Steele here? Oh, I'm going to beat up on Sid. Where? Who's that? Oh, yes, yes. Thank you both for coming. Class of 64.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Baier, for that truly superb speech. Those remarks were as good as any I've ever heard in all my years at Indiana University. Really excellent. I don't think I've ever heard the values of the university better encapsulated than you did in those remarks. So thank you again for that. Well, as we conclude this, I think, truly memorable occasion, I'd like to thank all the members of the naming committee who, as always, work diligently behind the scenes to plan events such as this, and to thank all of you for being here today for what will be, I'm sure, one of the greatest days ever in the history of the Maurer School of Law. So with that, we are adjourned, and thank you very much.